Hello and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Nick Rohn, Director of Technology for the Asset Leadership Network, and I'm excited for a special program with two of our favorite members. And before we get to Cyril, Verley, and Kimon Onuma from CDV Systems and Onuma Inc., we just want to say thank you to our organizational members, but it wasn't changing there. Here we go. Thank you, ALN patron members, Jacobs, Mantech, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, as well as all our organizational members, including CDV Systems and Kahua, and I'm sure we'll highlight more of our organizational members in upcoming parts of this program, because we are constantly, it seems like, getting inspired by the work they are doing and amplifying it. So let's get into it. And with that, we'll just say one of our members, the Andrew James Advisory Group, has some upcoming A55K training, and you can see those dates for those upcoming courses here. Please reach out to Lindsay Ziegler or me, N. Kinoki at assetleadership.net, and we will talk to you more about scheduling a custom course or getting your organization and team signed up for one of these upcoming courses. Mike, you want to say any more?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, thanks, Nick, for getting us started. And
Welcome, Mike.
thank you. And I don't want Cyril and Kimon's to get too big of a head because Nick says that whoever's our guest is our favorite member. So anyway, yeah, you can stop sharing the screen. I want to talk about what's happening next week, where we have members from Kahua joining us. And I am so happy. Kahua invited the ALN to be part of their federal construction forum in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. It was at the very lovely Willard Hotel, and it was a spectacular, encouraging, exciting event where federal agencies were talking about what they're doing, how they're using the collaborative Kahua tools to achieve their mission on a higher level. There were Kahua partners from Deloitte and other organizations, presentations from their partners. It was really inspiring, despite all the uncertainty in the United States. I feel that this group, and with Kahua as a member, and the way Kahua is including others, is really going to have a positive impact. Construction will still go on, and we're going to be doing it better. We're going to be showing the way to actually be efficient. And so happy that Nicholas Johnson is coming back, and Ariel from Kahua are going to be talking about what was covered in the full 8-hour day and the networking activities. Kahua has relationships with ALN members that I did not even know about. So we're really doing networking, and there's already follow-up meetings with ALN members in Kahua. It's very exciting. So great thanks to Kahua for that. And it turns out we're being a bit of a conference reporting vehicle. And it's so nice to have Cyril Verley and Kimon Onuma joining us fresh out of the National Facility Management Technology Conference 2025, which was in Baltimore last week. Is that right? Last week, Cyril? Things are going so fast.
Week before.
Oh, was it the week before?
Week before, yep.
Okay, but this is still fresh news, and we're happy that you went, and that you showcased a new ALN member, Facil.ai, in the event. And if they're here, we might even bring some of them on. But let me just turn it over to you, Cyril, and you can get started with your presentation.
Michael, thank you. And thank you, ALN, for hosting us here. This is always exciting to be part of this whole group. What we want to do first is start with a video that describes sort of an overview of what happened at the NFMT 2 weeks ago. So we're going to play this video, and hopefully you can see it.
Probably just the beginning of it, Cyril, because we don't have audio. This is more of a description.
Excuse me. There's no audio here.
No, there's audio on the second one. This was a introduction, and we'll post the link to this. This is actually online too, but we use this as our introduction to the first session that we did to describe kind of the use case and the frustrations that data that's not accessible, and how do you get access to your data about your facility for operation. So we kind of told the story, and today's session really is about how do we tell the story. That was the two sessions that we did, right? So the first one was about maps, and you needed a location to find things, and the maps are the beginning. So maybe we go on to the next one and we just keep going. We'll point to this video. We'll have another video later on. This was the introductory video.
Come on. There we go. Okay, good. And there's introduction. So I'm Cyril Verley from 26 Degree Software and CDV Systems, and Kimon Onuma, of course, from Onuma System. So the event last year, actually, I'm going to have Kimon describe some of these images here real quick, if you would, Kimon.
Sure. So we went to the NFMT conference and we presented on the first day, I think it was, right? We had a session about mapping and information, and we'll be posting the full video of that soon as well too. And then we started interacting and interviewing different people at the conference, and also looking at other solutions. Like we saw the Lucid robots cleaning windows on the lower left. We went to the different booths to see new technologies. We talked to Site Scout, who was involved with us in the second session. Deke Smith was there, had an interview with him. We posted on LinkedIn. And then after our first session, interestingly enough, we were approached by the conference organizers and said, do you guys have other kind of presentations you can do? And we didn't know exactly what they meant. We were at our booth at that time. And she said there was an opening on the third day there was a cancellation on a session on robotics, AI, and facility management. Said, can you guys handle that session? So at the last minute, we were added to a second session, which was very interesting. And we had literally a day to prep for it, although we had material as well, but we did produce new material, and that got pretty interesting too. So it was just a mixture of different things that were happening. The main thrust for us really was both Cyril and I was to let industry know that this is happening. I mean, a lot of it with AI, obviously a lot of things are swirling, and there's obviously not giant robots walking in front of the convention center, but we're testing the storyline and what you can and can't do with AI as well too. And that's a little bit of what today's session's about.
Exactly. So one of the takeaways of the show last year was really the focus on maps, and I think people are both Kimon and I both agree that people are really seeing the benefit of what maps can do. In the case of the California fires, both Kimon and I were, we were within 150 yards of the fire in Malibu when we had to move, get out of that area, and we were both using this application called Watch Duty, which is just a simple map showing you live information about what was happening to the fires, and it was literally being updated live as the fires were moving. You can actually see the planes flying in the air. You see the planes flying on the map. It was pretty remarkable, and it was a huge asset for both us to see where we could go, and for my family members. My daughter and son-in-law had to move their home as well because of the fire. So having a map is such a simple way of being able to navigate through the building. So what we did is we took and wanted to create that same environment for the show. Kimon brought in maps of the actual building. In addition to that, a number of buildings that are in this database, Onuma System, and we decided to create this kind of way of having people discover the use of a map within a digital twin. So if you may recall that a few months back in South Carolina, there were some monkeys that escaped from this facility, and we decided to place those monkeys inside a map, inside this digital twin. So here's a QR code for you to scan, and what we want you to do is within this application, which is called BIM Genie, it's a CMMS application. You can actually scan the code, click go, navigate to a campus of buildings, and what you'll do is choose a particular building, and then you can choose the floor level, you can choose the room, and you can actually submit a work order. Now, what we'd love to have you do is, I'm going to give you a hint, the Collectus Tower has monkeys inside of it, different floors, and the monkeys could be actual graphics. They could be monkeys in the name, both of which you can actually search within this digital twin. The intention here is that it allows you the ability to navigate through an entire campus of buildings, be able to locate the room and locate information about that room as well. So take that for a spin. We want to make sure that you do submissions so that you can actually get the full experience of this digital twin. And while you're doing that, some of the takeaways from last week regarding maps, a lot of people realize that the critical aspect of having a map, and especially so with security. My associate Jason Schubert and I happened to walk into one of these lectures, and there was a gentleman, a retired Marine, talking about security for buildings and talking about how CEOs of companies are being jailed. There's like 36 American CEOs that have been sent to prison because they didn't establish a security plan that includes maps for their emergency response to things like fires, active shooter. In essence, they're responsible for protecting people and assets within that building. That's their responsibility. And it was sort of shocking to me. This guy was very cut and dry. These CEOs, if they don't do this, this is what happens. Like, oh my God, this guy's really brimstone and fire. And then another takeaway was both Kimon and I met fire marshals from different municipalities, and in discussing with these fire marshals the importance of having maps to do what they do for first responders. And Kimon's going to dig a little deeper into that in a moment or two. But it was interesting that both these fire marshals had a lot of interest in understanding these maps and how could they use them in an emergency, on their phone, being able to navigate through the building for a variety of reasons. So let's see. I'm curious if anyone has found a monkey. If you've gone through the app and you've clicked on, the building, the level, the room, and then submitted it, your notes will be managed or monitored on our end for within the BIM Genie application.
Cyril?
Yes, Mike.
Since you're sharing your screen, you can't see the chat, but Nick said that he found imagine find a monkey in the BIM and submitted a work order. He says it's easy, and I found Monkey Lounge in the Collectus apartments. We cannot have monkeys in apartments. We got to get them out.
Got to get them out, of course.
Yeah.
Come on, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and one point we'd like to make is obviously this is kind of more of a fun exercise, but it's about finding assets in a building. And that's and the other angle to this too, it has to be more or less real time because things change, especially animals that are moving around, right? But our buildings are not talking to us in real time enough. That's part of the that we've seen over and over with the owner's frustration that they can't get to their information. It's in different silos. The systems aren't talking to each other. So how are you going to make decisions? And in this case, it's kind of a lighthearted thing of finding something that's moving around, but it could be a life or death type thing too.
Right. Exactly.
So if you go ahead and try this, we're going to actually use some of this content to try and push it through some of the AI tools that we're going to be showing next as well.
So should I be playing?
Yeah. No, I'll play that. I already have it
Okay,
loaded.
so I'm going to stop sharing now on my end then.
Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing. And maybe want to add to one thing that you introduced earlier, that you and I both were in the Los Angeles area when the fire happened. You were in Malibu, we're in Pasadena. We were watching that same map as the fire was moving around.
Right.
And the fact that we could see things happening in real time let us know, well, do we need to evacuate or can we stay put? And you actually evacuated because you saw things happening. So that situational awareness is what Victor Esch, who was at the conference, and it was one of the pictures that we showed of the fire chief, he was part of the hackathon in Pasadena where they were looking at different solutions of how do you build apps using AI to respond to emergencies. So we had a lot of discussions with him about that, and I think there's a need in the industry to connect the dots between different systems. So the Watch Duty app has many different inputs. It's not just one application. That's one important point for these systems. Okay, so what happened is in the session, we had submittals of work orders from the participants. Then we took the submittals of the work orders and we shot it through AI and created a song and then created a video around it, which is what we're going to play next. So it's a 3-minute video. Just have a little fun here. You can watch it and we'll talk about it afterwards about how we did this. This is all done right after the session as we were collecting.
So Kimon, I'm not seeing the video,
Oh, you're not? Okay, hold on a
and
second.
neither is Nick. So
Okay,
I don't see
let
that.
me try again.
you
Yeah,
had
let me try again.
preloaded it, but then you had stopped
Yeah.
it somehow.
There we go. Okay,
Well, we're not
how about
seeing
now?
it yet.
Not seeing it.
Okay. Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't share. Okay, let me try now. How about now?
Nope.
No?
Let's-
Okay,
It
one more
says
time.
Kimon has
All
started
right.
screen sharing.
One more time. Hold on, sorry. You guys can keep talking. I'll get it up there.
Again, during our sessions, both sessions, we had people creating work orders live during the call. Oh, here we go.
Not hearing it though. Did you push the button that said include sound?
You can't hear it?
No,
Can't hear it.
you have to push the button that says include sound.
You don't hear it? Okay, you just see the video, right?
We
Correct.
see the video.
Okay, that's fine. We can just talk through it. There's audio associated with this.
Well, the important thing to say about this is that Kimon and Cyril have come to realize that telling the story about AI is as important as the work you're doing with the AI, because there's a lot of fear and insecurity. And they have worked out how to make AI songs, AI videos, animations. And this is really the Escher hand drawing the hand, where they're using AI to help people learn about AI.
Yeah, and you can see hallucinations and all in here, which is actually okay. And which one of the messages we have at this session is obviously this is changing everything around us, right? And we as an industry need to understand what is possible, what the limitations are, how to actually use it for ourselves. So we just use some off-the-shelf tools here too, and I'll show you how we created it actually. But we also are building our own AI agents to help us in our work as well too, which we won't be going into details today. But the message is we really need to all at least understand what's possible for the industry, for design, construction, operation. And to be able to tell the story is a big part of it, because there's so much complexity that unless you can tell the story, it becomes very difficult to understand. So for example, when we're very involved with the standards discussion and the building information modeling and digital twin, all really important stuff, but we tend to kind of get lost in the detail. You know, it's like talking about wanting to catch an Uber and having to know how to take the engine apart to get a ride on an Uber, which is not the point. You need to keep it as simple as possible. So we'll post, in fact, I think we already have a link to the video. Yeah. So we have this video with the audio in it, and you can watch it, and we'll see where this goes. Okay.
And if you actually read the audio, that you actually read the text of the audio, it's describing individuals within the show during our lectures that submitted work orders, and so their names are being included, and what they've requested is being included. So it's quite remarkable that
their first
somehow
names,
AI,
we stripped out the last names.
right.
Yeah, that's another thing with all of this is how do you control what is shared, what is not shared, and really the digital twins and open source connection profiles, as we call them, with the Coalition for Smarter Buildings, which is on the screen now, is the ability to have APIs connect different systems. So no single system can do this. All right, so let's move on then. We're done with that. Should I go into sharing now?
Yep.
Okay, let me share my screen. That, and I'll get the slides back in here. Okay, so you see my slides?
We do.
All right. So that was the video. Another thing that we did at the second session, I wrote an article on how we,
Kimon,
yeah,
will you explain the second session?
yeah. So the second session, the first session was where we did this exercise and we talked about maps, right? And then we got the submittals from the audience on work orders. Then we immediately got a request to do the second session on robotics, AI, and facility management. So we said, okay,
So
let's take
that first session was standing room only.
yeah,
And
Correct.
one of the people in that room was the organizer of the event.
correct.
And she loved your presentation.
Hmm.
Danielle,
Yeah.
yes, she did.
Yeah.
And therefore, afterwards, she came over to your booth. Let me just tell the story for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
She came over to your booth and said Google was not able to give their robotic and AI presentation. Can you do anything? And all
Right.
right, well, now go ahead and take over. To
So
fill
then we had,
Google
yeah,
spot.
we had a day essentially to prepare for the second session. We had some material already that we could use, but then we used the content of the first session to make the video that I just showed to present to the second session as well too. So it was kind of we kept rolling with the data throughout the NFMT conference, and we were interacting with others at the conference as well too. So in the second session, we actually played off of concept of post that I made last month about the 4 laws for intelligent AI and digital twin. This is a play on Asimov's 4 laws of robotics. He had 3 laws and he added a fourth one, which is called the Z law. So I took it and there's a whole article about this. How do we apply it to the building industry? So the first law is about safety and responsibility, that AI must protect people and infrastructure. And if we're going to give tasks to AI and robots, we can't have them damaging the infrastructure. The second one is about ownership of controls, basically governance, right? Which is very much about ISO 55,000. If you don't have governance, then things can go wild, right? The third one's about resiliency and interoperability, that the systems must work with each other. Each of these laws references the first one, says you can do this one as long as you don't break this other law. So it's kind of working its way down. And the last one's interesting. It's about wisdom and long-term thinking to serve humanity's future. So you can do things. It's interesting if you read the details of it, because they essentially is giving instructions to a robot, but the robot's not going to know what to do unless you give it additional parameters around it. So you give it parameters. You can do this, but to save energy, for example, as long as you don't kill people or whatever or hurt people. Uh, and I think it's very applicable to what we're trying to do in the industry to make, just like we saw last week from Cyril, machines talking to each other to optimize energy use. And there was no, in fact, you saw a glimpse of it here too, but there's no dashboard. It's basically data going back and forth of machines optimizing energy. But the rules that are written around that are written by humans to say, well, here are what we want you to do to optimize energy. So we
What's
took that.
interesting,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
come on. No, I was going to say what's interesting about our presentation is that we decided to include other vendors at the NFMT show. So certain topics, of these 4 topics, each of these topics, there were 1, 2, or 3 vendors that we said come in, do let's do a video of you, or let's interview you live during our session. So it was really great to see all these different aspects of robots and AI being involved in trying to address these 4 laws that Kimon has outlined.
Mhm. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So these are the work orders that have been coming in even today, just now. So what we're doing is we're taking that, and I'm going to walk you through a little exercise here of how we actually made the music and told the story. This is just an off-the-shelf tool, ChatGPT. There's a free version. This is a paid version that I'm using. It's $20 a month. But we actually used it to organize ourselves today, even for the session. So you can load in, for example, the slides that we're showing. We actually loaded it in. We just started loading content in and started asking questions of it. What do you think of the presentation? What should we focus on? It's starting to give us answers. You guys have seen through ChatGPT. Maybe some of you are not aware that you can actually load documents in. So we're essentially using that content. And what I'm going to do is just take, let's just take Otter first. How many of you are aware of Otter? Otter is a note-taking app, and it's taking notes as we're speaking. You can see the notes coming in here. This is everything that's been happening, including screenshots. So we use this for note-taking, but you can also use it. See, it's actually getting my notes here. So it's real-time note-taking. Nothing magical about that anymore. Everyone's seen all that. But I'm going to take all these notes that I just grabbed from our current session right now and just load it into on ChatGPT, and I'm going to say create a hip hop song lyric using this content, whatever in the style, Beastie Boys. So prompting, for those that have not tried it, or for if you have tried it, it's really about how do you tell the story. So if you imagine, if you take all the technology away, how would you describe to somebody what you want them to do? That's the simplest form. And it's an art in itself, but essentially it's communication. So I'm just loading the entire thing there and I'm asking it to make a song out of that. And it'll create the lyrics, good or bad. And sometimes it's not very good, but it does it pretty interesting. Okay, here we go. So this is Maps, Monkeys, and Mayhem. This is all going off the content of what we just presented to you, what Cyril was talking about, Mike was talking about, information about what happened at Kahua. And there's the Willard Hotel that Mike mentioned. So these are the lyrics. And you can obviously take these and adjust them and go through various iterations. That's another thing with these videos and the storytelling. It's not one shot. It's a back and forth dialogue. So even if you're writing, if you're asking a prompt like this to make a song, you can go back and say, well, adjust this or do that. And it's a back and forth dialogue with this, as well with the video making, as well as the image making, as well as with how we design. It's very, very similar to design, right? What do you think, Cyril? I mean, you're an architect too. Isn't this kind of the iterative process?
Without question. I mean, it's remarkable that we can take all this information and sort of filter it through this structure, and then we choose and pick and choose which parts we like, and for constant refinement. It's a design process. You make sketches over sketches over sketches. The same thing is happening here. So you're making edits over edits over edits.
So two things. One, I always like to say that I was at the first Lollapalooza and the Beastie Boys were there. That was a great show. And second of all, you guys are transforming AI in the building industry by showing how to create the information that is going to impact the cultural change that all organizations are going to have to go through in order to exist with the tools that are now evolving. Unless you are a dedicated craftsman, who is doing leather by hand or pottery by hand, in order to stay in business, all other types of companies, organizations, governments, institutions are going to have to not only be able to use AI, but figure out a way to get their culture to be comfortable with it, because the promise is we will be able to do things that we've only been doing in science fiction.
Yeah. And there's obviously fear about this. And even at the session, we had questions like that. What happens if AI takes our jobs, right? And we've heard this before online and elsewhere, that it's going to be AI is not going to take your job. Somebody that is using AI is going to take your job. So it's really important to be in there front and center to understand how to use these tools instead of waiting. Waiting is the worst thing to do. So we just need to dive in. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things that are scary, but imagine, we're just making a song here, but imagine using this for designing. I mean, it's already starting to happen. There's no question about it. There's automation already starting to happen for architecture. It might not be great design, but it's actually getting pretty close and it's moving really fast. But you still need humans in the loop to basically understand how to have that conversation and also moderate it and guide it towards the way it should be used. Okay, so the next thing I did after that, while we were talking here, I just said, okay, now I want to help take these lyrics and turning it into a song. I'm going to use another tool. And I'm even using this to help me format the description of these lyrics without using the Beastie Boys names. See, where'd it go? Yeah, without using Beastie Boys names, just the style. Because if you say create a Beastie Boys song for me, it's going to be a copyright issue, even though it gets pretty close sometimes. So I'm prompting that to give me a short prompt for the style of the music. So here it is, high energy, hip hop, blah, blah, blah. Right, I'm just going to copy that. So I'm going away from ChatGPT now. I'm going into, there are several tools out there. We're not advocating for any of these tools. In fact, I don't even know all of them. There's a lot of other ones too. So I'm not saying these are the tools to use, but there's several tools like this for making songs. This is one of them called Suno. There's a free version as well. And what you do here is, here are the lyrics. You can ask it to make lyrics, or you could type your own in. So I'm going to say the style, and there's all kinds of styles, but I'm putting in the description of the style here. And then I'm going to just go back and grab the lyrics that I haven't even read all these lyrics. So I'm doing it pretty quickly here without even reviewing it. So we don't know what's going to happen, but hey, that doesn't matter. We're trying to show real time interaction here. Okay, there are the lyrics. I'm going to say create. It's going to run through here and create 2 songs, which I'll paste in see how this goes. Yeah, I'll just paste both of them into there. Okay, copy the link. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so it created the song, it tracked the lyrics, and then you can actually then share it, which I'll post in the chat box here. You can listen to it if you want, or later on, and we'll share all this stuff later. So the point here is that you're using multiple tools. It's like having a team out there. Hey, I want you to create an image. Hey, I want you to create a video. The video that we showed of the monkeys running around was also done with ChatGPT's the Sora video creator. Creates 5-second clips. There's some other ones that are more advanced now, even. So it's changing so fast. There's new
What is
things
that
coming out of
one?
it.
The
It's
Sora?
called Sora. Yeah, I'll show that too. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
Log in. It's called Sora.com. It's part of ChatGPT. So if you have a ChatGPT account, you can go in and create a Sora video. And it
We
looks
don't see
kind
your
of like,
screen, Kimon. We're seeing the
yeah,
Suno
I'm logging
screen.
in. I'm
Oh, I'm
logging in.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
And
Yeah,
while
so
that's going
here's,
on, I want to tie this back to, I was going to tie this back to the Kahua event, which I took pictures and sent Kimon pictures from the Kahua Federal Construction Forum, and he turned the pictures into videos that we just saw. And
Yep.
at the Kahua event, Avi Schwartz from Deloitte, who is one of Kahua's partners, gave a presentation on the survey that they've been doing on AI on a regular basis. They started off doing it annually, then things started moving so quick, they did it quarterly. Now they're thinking of doing a monthly survey. And in the presentation, Avi Schwartz said that there are 5 different levels of engaging with AI. And Kimon, what you're demonstrating to the audience is the 5th level, which is creativity, using AI to create. And this was from a
Yeah.
picture on Tuesday, and today there's monkeys flying around the Willard Hotel.
Yeah, this is actually from a still photograph that you sent me, and I just fed it in. And these aren't really, the quality is not that great, actually. There's some really weird hallucination type stuff happening. But you can see, in fact, here's some weird ones. There's somebody walking by with looks like no pants on almost, but and there, actually, there you are, Mike, right? That's you right there.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
But the point here,
with
yeah,
Nicholas
and
Johnson, chief evangelist from Kahua.
oh, okay. Yeah, and you can see that if I scroll down here, you'll see a lot of the sequence that I went through to create the robot session. This was the day before. We started just feeding in prompts to get some dancing robots and whatever, and some of them turned out okay. Some of them are kind of strange and monkeys around there, and then we use this one, I think. So it takes quite a bit of back and forth just because there's you want to get the right look. It's just like sketching basically. Yeah, so that's that. Mike, do you have any other thoughts? I'm going to show one more thing, but maybe you can talk for a little bit and I'll get to it.
Cyril, I've got a
Sure.
question I'm just going to dump on you live. The previous year when you had invited the ALN to be there with you and I represented, I met Stephen
Stephen.
Quartz. And I understand you talked with him extensively.
I did.
How's Stephen going? Stephen became a guest on ALN Thursday at 3, and he was one of the very interesting people that we met that year. How's he doing this year?
No, it's good. It's interesting. When we met last year, his budget was actually quite limited, and he was sort of stuck in a corner doing his work, and everyone loved the work he was doing regarding managing assets. It's a retinal company that they have, I think, 26 locations across the country, in that region of the country, and he's responsible for managing those buildings. They don't have a map structure yet, but this year when I saw him again, his bosses were far more interested in what he was doing. They hired 2 assistants for him, so his workload is expanding, and they do have the intention of jumping into maps in the near future. But it was interesting that his work is expanding, knowing that his bosses see the value of managing assets. I mean, as simple as that. They thought it was sort of this black box before, but now they have a much better understanding and appreciation of what he does, and his work is expanding, which is quite interesting. So
Excellent.
So what I did is I took the work orders that were I stripped out the names and I put the work orders that we have here. And I basically said, make a song about that now. So these are the lyrics now based on the work orders that were just coming in. You get the pattern here. I'm cutting and pasting stuff, but when you start getting agents, this is kind of the more advanced, the off the shelf one, I'm just patching things together. But when you start getting agents, you can actually have an agent looking at that work order data, giving us patterns, which is kind of what Keith talked about last week with Vasile. They have machine learning and AI looking at data coming from the rooftop units, the energy use, and then optimizing it directly. In this case, I'm just basically taking it out to create a song, but it's the same kind of pattern. How do you get data out, or how do you look at data and interact with it? So this is kind of interesting. It's showing there's a monkey on parade in room 101, right? So it's basically taking the location, saying what was found, and then writing the laundry room's hot. It's just taking the data and creating a lyrics out of it. So the other theme relating to these AI tools, which we heard at the Scale conference at the hackathon, these are programmers that were creating apps. They said even 6 months ago, to have taken a team of 2 or 3 programmers to create that app, and the winning team was one person using AI to create code to write an app in 2 weeks. I mean, it's pretty astounding if you think about it. And they said that's how they are actually able to move faster, because you take the mundane work and then you can focus on the creative part, which gets back to design and construction too, right? So I mean, we have the same issue that we're constantly dealing with mundane data and facilities and operations and design, when we could be spending more time on the creative part of design.
of course, come on, this goes back to what you did with LACCD regarding the 77,000 work orders that were brought into ChatGPT and analyzed in AI. And that was just a remarkable success of how data can be used, as long as the data is there.
Cyril, this is great. I was just going to say that. So it's perfect. We are working together very well. And it's fun to do the monkeys and the song and stuff, but this is a very real application that is achievable. Kimon just showed everyone some secret sauce that's not all that secret. but people can put their work orders, their collected work orders into AI and turn it into predictive maintenance. That's transformative.
Yeah. And also the other thing relating to that too, this, if we start getting more serious about the data. So obviously a lot of the stuff, we got questions like the conference, right? Cybersecurity and privacy and all that. We're loading stuff into ChatGPT, right? It goes to their server. But what we learned, got confirmation at the Scale conference, is that you can bring AI agents to the edge. In other words, our devices now are supercomputers that can have AI loaded in them. And if you imagine one of these devices in a system inside the building, then it could be communicating with that system inside the building. So you're not always having to send things out, which is a very important point because these AI tools, they use a lot of energy, and sending them to a central server is just ballooning the amount of energy that's using. That's just not sustainable. But if we think in terms of breaking it down to smaller pieces that have very specific tasks, they don't have to know everything about the world to balance a rooftop unit like Heath showed. It's a very precise set of instructions. Same thing with work orders. We could say, go and look at patterns in these work orders that might be a risk in certain part of the building. You describe that as essentially a prompt that you put into the agent that works with other agents to look for things that might need to be reacted to, whether it's a work order or preventive maintenance. Yeah, so Nick said decentralization, yeah, decentralized, localized to that geographic area, exactly. So we're close to the end of the session, Mike. What do you want to do? I have a few wrap-up slides, but
Well, I just reached out to Deke. I put it in the chat. Deke, you were there. If you want, we can make you a panelist. Say in the chat if that's all right or not. And you can come in and provide some insights from your perspective.
We also want to mention the event happening in 2 weeks as well.
yeah. Yeah, we have an event on April 22nd where we'll go, Cyril and I will go into more details. Today was more of an introduction of what happened at the conference, a few things here and there. We want to take a deeper dive on April 22nd through ALN on more of this connectivity between these different systems and digital twins and the use of AI as well.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, so
special Tuesday session.
Special Tuesday session. Yeah, and at the conference, Deke was there, and this is actually Victor.
Wait a second. It might be a special Wednesday session because Nick, did we schedule an ALN book discussion club event for
Jim
that?
said Wednesdays were bad for him, I believe.
Yeah, so we made it Tuesday for the book
Right.
discussion club.
Right.
So guys, here's a real-time change. We're gonna have to make that the 23rd of Wednesday because we've already got that. Is that okay with both of you?
Yes.
I
So we're
just changed it.
demonstrating some of that agility that's needed in the modern world.
23rd it is. Yeah.
Thanks
Deke.
for joining us, Deke.
Sure. Thought I could. I said that if Kimon and Shoka come all the way across the country, I should be able to drive up from DC to Baltimore to see him. And it was worth the trip for sure.
And we got to thank you again, Deke, for introducing us to Cyril, because it's been really neat to have these two companies, ALN members, presenting together all over the country. That's what the network is supposed to do, is create those types of, I hate to use the word synergistic, but it's really a great combination, and we love highlighting your work together. What did you see while you were there?
Primarily just Kimon's session, and we had a chance to talk a little bit. We're working on a book now on total cost of ownership, so we had a chance to talk about that a little bit too.
Well, how does that tie in with all of the activities?
The basis for total cost of ownership is having good asset management, so it fits into very closely.
Yeah, it's hand in glove.
Yep.
Look at all the sponsors you had behind you, Deke.
I tell you.
This is your sponsor wall. Yeah. How did you grab all those people?
Yeah, it's I think, like I say, it all fits together, and I think all the efforts that are going on are really exciting, like especially with the AI coming in and everything like that. I think it's really going to make it an opportunity to really make some changes, get in there and make all the things that we've been thinking about for a long time actually work.
Excellent. Another element of the Kahua event was the Construction Industry Institute presented, and I talked with them. And Deke and Kimon and Cyril, what do you think about a bunch of these associations that are focused on universities and higher education having some type of co-mingled, co-facilitated event? I suggested that we start with some web activities that gets APA and the Campus Facility Management Technology and the Construction Industry Institute together.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think having
Yeah.
CFTA, you just mentioned the Campus Facility Management Technology Association. They're an amazing group, and certainly we should get them involved as well.
Yeah, did you see that they're having an event here coming up soon?
They are.
They have a request out for abstracts for their conference. The conference is going to be in Minneapolis, August 5th through 7th,
Right.
but the call for abstracts closes on the 30th.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be submitting already. So
there you go. I figured you probably had.
Yep.
So Deke, we talked about how we've all been in this for decades now, but something feels different this time. And the other thing that I think we've kind of been not tiptoeing around, we've been talking about this as well for years too, but I think it's even more important now to get the owners and the governance in here.
Yep.
Because a lot of owners are not engaged enough in understanding the technology, and kind of push it to the IT department. Oh, go figure this out. This BIM stuff or this digital twin stuff or this AI stuff. And that's the wrong thing to do right now. We need some owners leading this, because they're the ones that are wanting the total cost controlled. Therefore, they should be writing these requirements and understanding even what to ask for. Because I've seen pattern of it over and over again. They're asking the wrong questions because they've been fed a lot of marketing or a lot of misconceptions, and it's just time for that to stop, because it's not only bad practice, it actually gets dangerous now if we don't help guide that evolution that's going to happen with systems starting to talk to each other more. For example, we want systems to talk to each other. Okay, that's not just going to happen accidentally. We have to have some kind of method to do that, which actually gets into the Coalition for Smarter Buildings and IBB and the Linux Foundation work that's happening as well, to create these open source connections so we see how things are talking to each other. And that's really the only way to scale it, because there's so much complexity in all this.
Yeah, I think that's you mentioned the Linux. I think that whole effort is exciting, and I think that and I think even more important was what we talked a little bit about, the owners, really getting them. I mean, they're the beneficiaries, so they've got to really, they need to be able to understand what they're benefiting from all this effort.
Right.
And I think just being able to get to them a little better, and practitioners have been talking to practitioners for a long time, but it's really difficult to kind of engage the owner. And it is kind of it's not just your average owner. It's going to be your owners that are probably larger portfolio holders, and it can be hospitals or airports, or and we certainly have been talking in college and universities. We've certainly been talking to a lot of them, and I think just continuing to press on that front, I think, is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being able to tell the story. That's why the theme of today's session. How do we tell that story to owners so we don't get them bogged down with BIM and digital twins and ISC and all that stuff's important. Kobe, all of it's important, but I think we create a lot of noise ourselves that we can't even understand what we're talking about yet, let alone tell that story to an owner that's going to be paying for this. So we really need to figure out how to tell that story and how to show the benefits. And now I think with these technologies, It's going to, first of all, be easier to tell stories if we're part of that. Second, I think with the technology, even with AI, this is actually a good example that I kind of touched on earlier. AI actually helps you go through a lot of data quickly. So it's good to have structured data for AI, but it also allows you to look through non-structured stuff to make sense out of it and make it more structured, or to on the fly create apps like I mentioned from the Scale conference. It's a completely different world where you don't have to plan on building an app for a year and then build it for 2 years and then release it. And then by that time it's outdated. It's just apps become disposable. Basically, you build apps and you plug them together and you create solutions. And then you have AI helping you manage essentially that complexity.
Yep.
You're here.
What do you think it's going to do for design and architecture, since we're all coming from that world too? Engineering.
Well, of course, one of the things that I think that the designer can have a lot more information available to them. And, like say, in the total cost part, if you're making a decision about some material or something like that, now you should have at your fingertips what the total impact of that decision is, and not necessarily just how it's going to affect the initial price or first cost. But what is it going to do for the life of the facility? And that's really, unfortunately, I think even in an owner's organization, the budgets get split up, and you have a budget for building the building, and then you have a budget for operating the building later on, and so those are two separate, and a lot of people think they're not connected.
Yeah.
But they're very much connected.
Yeah.
And that's the problem right there.
Yep.
Yes.
That's it right there in a nutshell.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Mark
Mike?
Giuliani from Giuliani Architects is responding to your question, is saying that AI can jump into the specifications and drawing sets to do clash detection.
Good point, Mark. Too. That's one of the things. There's unless it's a small building and the architect is doing both the spec and the cost. That's in a larger situation. Those are really disconnected, and I think AI could do a lot to be able to connect that, so that as you do the design, you're creating the spec and you're creating the costs and like say in a total cost as you go, and that would be very powerful, because right now it's somewhat disconnected. You may not be what you design might not be what got spec'd and might not be what got cost.
Right. I put this on screen because I posted this on automated buildings the other day, and I'm doing a follow-up on it. But my belief is that AI is the digital twin of civilization. All the warts and all and the hallucinations all together. It's basically a pulse on what's happening. It's first of all, it's grabbing all the data that we have, right, historically, and then we're feeding it new information, and then it's interacting with it like we saw last week, right? It's starting to iterate and do things. And it's essentially a digital twin. If a digital twin is a representation of the physical thing, AI is the digital twin of civilization. That's my view of it. And I'm going to be posting more about this. It's kind of out there, but it's not just about the building. It's about the environment. It's about history. It's about everything. So if anybody has any thoughts or disagreements with this, let me know through LinkedIn. That I posted this on LinkedIn. Automated buildings.
I had a dream the other night about teletransporting. Everybody, Star Wars and everything like that. You're moving a person from one place to another point. And I was thinking, what are you? If you move from one spot to the next spot, are you still thinking about the same thing that you were thinking about before you were?
Well, that's pretty deep. Multiple universes, yeah. Yeah, the other one that I posted was about the hallucinations. And I'm saying that, okay, AI hallucinates, but so have we. We've had engineering and architectural problems that, we hallucinate about the Trojan horse, or the different failures that we've had throughout history that not necessarily intentional. It's more about lack of communication, right? So if there's an engineering decision that was a mistake, or we used a metric instead of imperial units to land the Mars climate orbiter, well, that was a communication issue, a standards issue. So those are
Right.
variations of hallucination. So we can't just blame AI for hallucinating. We've done it historically. That's been our thing too. Really up to us to train not to do that. Okay, I think we're good for today, right, Mike? You want to wrap it
Yeah.
up? Or Cyril, what else do you want to say?
No, I think it's all good. I look forward to the next session.
Yeah,
We'll
it's
dive
great.
deeper.
It's great to be presenting this type of information for asset owners to begin to start feeling comfortable to ask for this. And appreciate you breaking it down to the facility level, the room, the piece of the asset, but also the cultural enhancements by using creativity to get people to understand the bigger picture. And at the Kahua event, the presenter on AI, Avi Schwartz, ended his session, instead of asking questions or taking questions, he asked people what would they use AI to do. And everyone was talking about really good individual solutions. And I said, if we're going to dream, let's dream big. Let's dream about owners requiring our best abilities and using AI to transform the entire building industry process set, because everything here requires a change in contracting mechanisms, a change in accounting, human resources, all types of things. And owners can better achieve their mission doing this, but they've got to think holistically. And we've got to think about this on a societal level. What is this going to do? Bricklayers will always be needed because we're always going to need someone to stack bricks on top of bricks until a robot comes along and does it, which I'm sure there are. Oh, that's one thing. Quickly talk about the robot that was window washing at the National Facility Management
Oh,
Technology
it
Conference.
was Lucid Bots, and I actually got to try piloting it. We got like a 30-second lesson, and then I actually flew the robot. It actually washes the windows. If you go to the LinkedIn, you can see it. Maybe I'll find the link and post it here. But yeah, they're basically saying you don't have to have scaffolding and get people up on, and it can go up 200 feet in the air. It carries a hose behind it, which is actually pretty amazing. If you think a 200-foot hose with water in it, and it's still balancing and flying and cleaning the windows.
Staying
And I
perfectly
think this
level.
is stayed perfect. Yeah,
That,
Cyril, you were there too. Yeah.
that's what shocked me as I was watching it. That this device was, I mean, it was perfectly stationary in the air. It's holding this hose, and then the water starts to spray. Now, if you've ever sprayed a high pressure hose, it does this. That thing stayed perfectly stationary and just zipped along. And as it got higher and higher, the hose is getting longer and the weight's getting more extreme and doesn't move at all. It just stays perfectly set. Quite remarkable.
With the wind, and it has sensors so it doesn't bump into the glass. And then you just use it like a PlayStation joystick to navigate this $56,000. So they gave me the controls to fly this this thing. It was pretty interesting.
Well, thank you for reporting back from the conference. Thank you for extending our understanding of AI and how to be creative, and for showing us very practical, usable approaches for some of the AI tools that you demonstrated. Cyril, thanks for your reporting. Kimon, thanks for your new approach to journalism that's really transforming automated buildings. And Deke, thanks for popping in and giving your insights on the activities at the National Facility Management Technology Conference that was in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago. Nick, if you want to come in and close us out.
Yeah, really, really great presentation. Thanks, Kimon and Cyril, and for everyone who stuck around or participated in the discussion. Look forward to our next conversation with these two of our inspiring members. And thanks again to our patron members, Jacobs, Mantic, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, as well as all our organizational members, especially CDV Systems, Kahua, the Andrew James Advisory Group. And we'd really like to increase this list, so please reach out if you'd like to figure out how the ALN and your organization can work together. And consider a 55K training also for your organization, or just to increase your own understanding of ISO 55000, as that is definitely related to all of this. And we will get into that, I'm sure, at some point in the future. Thanks all.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week with Kahua, and then the 22nd, join our book club discussion, even if you haven't read Nexus. So we're talking about AI. And then on the 23rd, Kimon and Cyril will be back to roll up their sleeves and go into more details about the way to use these tools. So thanks, yes, to the audience and all the presenters, and thanks, Nick, for closing us out.
Thanks so much.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye for
bye.
now.